My name is Sidley Law. I am the official host, which means I get to be on stage with these awesome people. I'm also the chair of the International Academy of Web Television. We do things like we run writers groups in both LA and New York. We do all sorts of other incubation type projects, as well as events like this in various cities around the country. And we have a great, really awesome award show in Las Vegas each January celebrating the best in web television. Today we are talking about independent art in the 21st century. We have a really cool mix of people, and I'm going to start on this end and ask them to tell you who they are and why independent art is important to them.
My name is Jenny Bahn, and I am a writer who kind of is thrived in this independent digital world. And I guess my career has been very DIY and organic, so that's why independent art is important to me. I never worked for the band.
Hi, I'm Tassone. I'm an independent producer. Well, art, just for the fact that I was born and raised in Italy, kind of flows through my veins. So I feel blessed that I'm able to take the art form and kind of use it in the medium that I work with. I produce commercials and independent film.
Hi, I'm Thom Woodley. I get to wear three hats. One is as a web series creator, where I've made a number of web series, going back to sort of the birth of YouTube. I work in advertising also, so I get to see it from the man side, which is fun. And I'm a teacher of web series at a couple of different colleges, so I get to kind of help raise the next generation of web creators. And it's important to me because I just think it's incredibly important to get new voices out there and to get anyone who is able to create something the chance to do it.
And my name is Jay Miles. I'm also a teacher, both at the university and at the high school level in media production. I'm also an independent producer and director, covering everything from super low budget music videos to super high budget corporate work. And I also do a lot of video and social media marketing stuff with other teachers and not-for-profit agencies and small companies.
Awesome. As we dive into this, I'd love to find out a little bit about who you are. It's likely that you're either industry or you're in like a fan community set, or you may be an artist. And so, can I get a show of hands of industry folks? So a few fan community folks. Less. Artists of some kind. That was a lot of people. So we've got some creator types here in the room. That's awesome. It's exciting, I think, for us because how often do I get to be with you? Or how often do you four get to be with each other? Yeah. So I would love to start like really big picture. If you could pick a film or a series that you would sort of put into that category of indie art, and why it moved you.
In terms of indie art, I would have to say that Freaks and Geeks, the television show, was way ahead of its time and not really given its due. And it's just something that continues to remain relevant and is catapulted so many people's careers. So I think that Freaks and Geeks to me is an amazing model for independent art and the television sphere.
Well, actually, I just happened to be watching TV the other night. I saw an Italian film called The Wedding, 1998. It was a fascinating movie because it was a period piece. To me, art is not just what you see visually. To me, art is what also inspires you on a visceral level. And the movie was the turn of the century, 1899, and it was about a wedding where a guy that had left, immigrated to America, made himself very rich, was coming back, and everybody wanted a piece of him. And it was just the beauty of how the cinematographer created this narrative that not only on the level of art production, the storyline, and also the qualities that the movie was selling too. So to me, in that respect, art is not just visually, but it's all the other elements that get thrown in.
I mean, there's so many examples. I guess the one that I kind of think of first is a web series called Anyone But Me. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. But I think they did 3 seasons, and the nice story there is it's a lesbian drama. Before that was like a kind of a cool thing to do on television. Now, of course, a lot of shows are doing it. And they couldn't get it made on TV because they thought it was too controversial or whatever. So they made it themselves, and they were sort of one of the first independent series to be completely audience supported, to the point where they were able to make a show for an audience that was underserved, and they loved it, and so the audience themselves, were able to pay for additional seasons to get made. And I just thought it sort of kick-started the Kickstarter model, and as far as web series creators go.
Yeah, I think my two favorite are basically everything that Rhett and Link have done. Those are like my personal heroes on the web. Two guys, best friends, growing up in Carolina, saved up some money, bought a camera, did a bunch of schlocky, purposefully bad local commercials, got a sponsorship, parlayed that into a couple of music videos, a couple of hit viral videos, a television show, moved to LA. They're like indestructible, I think. But still genuine and sincere and grounded. And then my other big favorite is the Kane's Arcade documentary film, which is local filmmaker in LA found this like young kid in East LA who was making like old style penny arcade games on discarded cardboard boxes in his dad's auto shop. And the guy made a film and it went bananas. And if you haven't seen it, I won't tell you anymore, but the kid's kind of like become this insane viral hit, right? But again, still with like local flavor and a lot of heart.
So in this world where you have this democratization of the internet, and people can do things like that, what is the impact of 78 hours a minute of content going on YouTube? How does that impact art? How does that impact maybe some really great stuff being seen against maybe stuff that is just I shot my cat doing backflips.
Wait, I saw that one. That's good stuff. That was you? You want to go this way back?
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit of a catch-22, right? Because everything is out there right now, and everything is amazing all the time. Like, I sort of get internet overload some nights because there's just so much insanely gorgeous, wonderful, startling, moving, breathtaking stuff going on. Whether you're talking about documentary and social cause stuff, or just amazing humans doing amazing. Guy jumps out of the thing, the Red Bull guy, right? What was that all about? He jumped from space, and so everything is amazing right now. But the trade-off is, how do you find your audience when they're all out there busy being amazing themselves? So it's a challenging but an insanely wonderful time to be on this planet.
Yeah, I guess just to kind of continue what you're saying, the biggest problem is, and has been for several years, not how much great material is out there, but the filtering of it, the curation of it. And I think that's really a growing problem. We're starting to see that there are some brands that are coming out, like sort of in the early days of cable, and you had like HBO shows, and they're coming out they had like stamp quality behind them. I think Netflix is working in that direction. Of course, that's not really independent, I guess you could say. But that's sort of the next step that I think has to happen, is that there needs to be more sort of curated and filtered channels that the audience knows that if they go to that channel, they're going to see, something that appeals to them. And YouTube is, definitely already moving in this direction. They have their premiere channels, but it's just in the very first stages of that.
I think it's a great thing. I don't think we have enough of it. I mean, for all of us here who are considered artists, the beauty of art is that anybody can do it, and there's a market, there's a venue that you can show it in, and everybody has an opinion whether it's good or bad. I mean, it's really not up to us as a producer to decide what is good and bad. My job is to create the content to put out there for you as an audience to decide that. And I think we're at a time in our life where it's awesome. I mean, I can decide that I want to paint a rock and say this is art. And somebody's out there is going to say, man, it's amazing. It's like a pet rock. That's a great idea. So I think it's a great time. I don't think we have an overload. I mean, you guys may feel that we do. I don't think we do. I think there's I was talking to this gentleman yesterday. Yeah, I don't think there's enough content. stations are hurting for content. So whether you call it the content of what these guys have been doing this weekend, whether it's film or documentaries, I think the more power, the more the better.
And I guess I'll come at this from a writing perspective. In 2008, I started a blog, which I guess is kind of the digital equivalent of like a YouTube station. And that really just gave me a platform that ended up working for me. So from kind of just blogging daily, like 500-word essays, I was able to amass readership, and then at the end of 3 years, I had this whole catalog of work that I was then able to go to magazines and be like, I'm pitching articles. So I was never published in an official way when I had the blog, and then the blog is really what allowed me to write for other magazines. And now it's snowballed into me having a lit manager, and so I think that as a writer, the fact that you can go on the internet, you can get some, stupid WordPress blog. I think that's amazing. But on that note, there are horrible blogs out there, and it's not necessarily a place for really good writers kind of nest, and it's a mixed bag.
So I've heard a couple of you mention this whole thing about audience and finding your audience, and that you were able to sort of amass a readership and that sort of stuff. What is the role of the audience in this day when we can all put stuff up and hypothetically it's accessible to anybody who can get to the internet? Where does the audience fit into that?
I'll start. For me, the audience is really important because they've been the ones who have really pushed me into making writing a full-time career. The audience I'm going after is not necessarily mass, so it's never been about numbers. And some of the clients that I work for writing are about numbers, and I can't say that my work is the best when you're working for numbers. It's really just been going after a particular type of person for me. So that's my audience. Sorry.
Audience is relative to what is an audience to me? Audience of what? Audience of 100? Audience of a day? Ultimately, everything generates income. So we all can have great ideas. We can have an audience, but the audience doesn't generate some kind of a monetary.
So would you would value the audience based on the dollar value, or would you value the audience in a different way?
No, I'm not saying that I would value. I'm saying the reality is you can have an audience, but the audience itself is not going to sustain your art. So I can have this amazing idea, and I have 100,000 people that love it, but I don't have sponsors that put money into supporting the idea. It's not very smart.
So survivability.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So the thing about it is there's actually two different, I think, art forms and mediums that we're actually talking about here. There's what YouTube does really well, which is, for lack of a better word, I'll use the horrible word, viral video. YouTube is really great at that. It's really great at, you go to YouTube, you see something, you can look up whatever you want to see and probably see it. It's not so great for discovering like new narrative stories or anything like that. That's one business model, the viral video, and it's based entirely on getting a number of views and a number of subscribers. The reason it's based on that is because the more subscribers you have and the more views you have, the more the advertisers can pay YouTube to keep their website running, and then the more YouTube pays you. So that's one business model. And the people who are really great at the business model make 6 figures a month doing that. Okay? But maybe 20, 30 people make that much money doing it. And that's one business model, and advertisers are all about that. They're all about like quantity of views, because to them, they're still in this TV world that says, okay, well, in order for my huge investment of money to be successful, it needs to be seen by however many million people. So that's viral video, and I think what I'm personally more interested in is the other side of that, which I call chronic video, which is not video that you see once and then get over, but it's video that you keep wanting to come back to and keep watching. So like a series, something narrative. YouTube does not do that well, and that business model, if that's going to exist, is more dependent on not quantity of views, but quality of views.
Thom, would you say that YouTube is trying to get to that place?
Yeah, but they're not doing it so good. Well, what they do really well, YouTube, the average age of a YouTube viewer is somewhere in the 20s, but the average age of a YouTube view is like 16, which means that people on the young end of the spectrum are watching so much more that really the only thing that is sustaining on YouTube, and if you look at the top 30 channels, it's music videos and like, you know, Smosh and things like that. Now there are some good stuff like Rhett and Link who do make the list, but it's mainly stuff geared towards teens. So it ends up usually not being like really like challenging content or, you know, what we would consider to be the, you know, whatever majority of us probably make. I'm generalizing wildly. So I think that like the business model that we're starting to see very slowly creep in is totally dependent on the audience, because it's saying, all right, look, we were just talking about this a second ago. I have a show about skateboards. I need to sell 1,000 skateboards. I only need an audience of 100,000 intense skateboarders to watch that show. I don't need 2 million people age, you know, 18 to 49, because I know who my, you know, so if we have smaller advertisers going after like a more niche audience, it can sustain a smaller show. Not quite there yet, but that's, I think, where it needs to go and where it is going.
Yeah, I absolutely. I got to echo like everything Thom just said, especially how YouTube is making things more and more difficult, it seems, for the small guy, and sort of favoring the 20-something, you know, super successful producers. That's why I call it there to now. Well, I think what the role of the audience is, I would say it does a couple of things for you that used to be really difficult. It becomes your promoter, right? So if you do experience something that's fantastic, you hit share, ideally, right? Or you tweet it, or somehow they become your distribution network beyond just the platform. You know, YouTube's not going to find you viewers necessarily. They might suggest it, but that whole algorithm needs a lot of work. You know, so you're going to see something that I make, you're going to send it to him and her, so they promote you. And they're also your ad agency in a way, no offense intended to the ad agencies, but the kind of analytics that you can get, ages, number of views, times, countries, all that kind of stuff, and heaven forbid you read the comments on any kind of post, blog, you know, a YouTube clip, whatever, you can learn a lot about what's successful and failing in terms of your effort to get your content up.
So I think that it plays really nicely into a conversation around platforms. So I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about YouTube, but if you're doing film, you know, you can look at Vimeo. Earlier today, we had a guy from Daily Motion on a panel, and so there's some various platforms. You mentioned WordPress as a platform, really for an audience. What is the role of the platform in the midst of your art, your audience?
You know, I think there's some smart decisions to be made. You know, filmmakers sort of traditionally pick Vimeo. That's like the default, right? Because I think the quality tends to be better in terms of the playback. And guys with, you know, roller skating squirrel videos are YouTube content creators. That's the general understanding. I think you have to be smart about deciding what your message is, right? And how that works on Vine versus YouTube, right? Or if you're blogging within your site versus blogging on an external, right? So you have to just be smart about which platform is most effective. But I think you also need to make sure you're not ignoring, I mean, everybody wants to market content, right? Please watch my video, please donate to my Kickstarter and read my blog. But I think you have to be smart, regardless of platform, about content marketing. Flip that around and you realize that's making sure that you're paying attention to the titles of the things that you post, the information in the, you know, like in your YouTube description paragraph, all those things that generate search results, right? So almost regardless of platform, it's how am I using other potential audience searches to bring them to my piece?
Yeah, I mean, this is the platform question is something that always comes up on these, because the answer really is like it just completely depends what your project is and what you're trying to get out of it. Like if you are trying to get, if you have an idea that's short and viral, and if you're trying to get some big advertising agency to come in and give you money to do something, you should be on YouTube. But not if you're doing like a web series with a script and an arc. That really doesn't work so well on YouTube. The place you want to be then is Vimeo, or Blip is actually doing some really great stuff. Blip is sort of setting themselves up. They were a distribution network, and now they're slowly becoming more of like a platform for, I guess, specifically indie web series. Vimeo now has a thing similar to iTunes where you can buy you can download the episode right in Vimeo, but for pay. So it's great for indie filmmakers. And then and then Vine and Instagram are really like if you are trying to build an audience quickly and are okay working in a format of 6 seconds and 15 seconds respectively, then that's the place that you want to be. And I've seen Vine has been out for 6 months, something like that, and I've seen just at my own agency, like seeing people go from, in the space of a week, no viewers to a couple million viewers to picked up by Pepsi to do something, so just nuts, and then of course dropped immediately. So there's but if you're looking to like build an audience quickly, and then like say, oh, by the way, I have this great web series too, you'll get 1/10 of those people to watch your web series, but that's still better than what you probably would otherwise start out with.
I have nothing else to say. I think they covered it all. I do have one thing that the wonderful thing about from Thom and I both kind of the advertising venue is that what the internet has allowed us to do is, I was talking to about it, is that we have a lot of legal entities that control what you see on TV. So for advertisers now, what's happened is they go viral. And when you go viral, it means it gives you a huge arc of creativity. You're not restricted to what you put on TV, with verbiage, action, nudity. So in the sense of the art form, I think it's given a better avenue. For us, I think like Thom said, YouTube seems to be the biggest thing right now for the advertising community to get their stuff out really quick. I don't know so much about the other two big ones as well.
Next question. It's exhausted.
So, earlier we talked about the whole sustainability thing. I want to come back around to it because it really seems like there's this weird juxtapositioning of creating art and feeding an audience. And we mentioned a little bit about the audience of one, and that there can be some value in that. It certainly worked for Einstein, But are there other Einsteins out there where if they can use one of these platforms or use one of the media that we all engage in, that they can use that as a tool for communicating to a particular niche in a way that is unique? Is there room for that still?
Again, from a writing standpoint, my own personal work to a very limited niche audience that I said earlier, that has never been very profitable for me, like aiming at that niche and really not really caring about advertising and pushing it mass. However, the few audience members that are kind of tastemakers who have kind of gleaned onto the website have made a difference in my career. So I don't know if that answers the question at all. But yeah, I guess playing to the audience of one, if the audience of one is exactly who can then play it to an audience of a million. So I'm kind of piggybacking on someone else's access to the masses.
Well, and I think the question goes back to that: art for art's sake, or art for some other reason.
Yeah, I think again, you have to be smart about your message, right? So if you're a nonprofit, okay, and you're trying to, for instance, I gave a workshop in this exact sort of stuff in terms of social media aspects of getting out a message, as opposed to please see my film or buy my skateboard. So it was for the National Network to End Domestic Violence. Okay, if there was one branch of that organization in South Dakota that put a YouTube video out that was 1 minute long, it was badly shot, and the audio wasn't so great, but it got one person to make a telephone call to get themselves some assistance in getting out of a bad situation, then it's totally victorious and the value is immeasurable, right? But if you're an upstart hockey stick company, you don't want to sell one hockey player 3 hockey sticks. You need to find 30,000, and that's where some of these platforms do have a value. Because if you buy a spot in the Super Bowl, right, which is the most precious advertising, territory. Well, yeah, traditionally. You might get some hockey players to see it because they're athletes, but you can't guarantee it, right? Out of the however many billions of people are going to watch Super Bowl. But a YouTube channel that is doing documentaries on rising hockey players or on hockey coaching techniques, or, you know what I'm saying? If you can approach them and say, listen, I want to sponsor your web series. I know you have 70,000 people who follow you. I'm going to take that chance, right? For less money, because that's my niche audience. So there's my 4 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if your question is arts or arts for art's sake or arts for money, it's both. I mean, it's got to be both. I mean, I think any anyone who's an artist knows that if you're an artist, you're just compelled to do it anyway, and you're probably just going to keep making it, even if I tell you not to. You know, like you can't. You're not. If you're a writer, you're not going to stop writing because you're not getting paid for it. You know. So then, you have to alternate, I think, to survive. I mean, just a quick story. I was working at an ad agency writing for Pepto-Bismol, of all things, and you know, when you work in an ad agency, you see like, okay, now we're going to drop $2 million on one 30-second commercial. You know, and I'm like, God, what could I do with that? You know, how many feature films could you make for that amount of money? But the producer came into my office and she was like, well, here's the list of directors we have to choose from, and Wim Wenders was top on the list. You know, it's like, are you kidding me? This guy does he wants to do Pepto-Bismol commercials, and she's like, yeah, well, he needs to make money too. And that was a realization. It's like, you know, no one is exempt from this. There's no artist on earth who's exempt from this pressure. I mean, maybe a couple. Who's exempt from this pressure of like having to like alternate between, you know, now I'm doing like the most brilliant epic opus of my career, and now I'm walking the dog for some money that'll last me the rest of the year. And it's just how it is. So I think the thing is you go back and forth, and Morgan Spurlock just directed that One Direction movie, you know. So I mean, you have to do both.
No, I think you hit it right on the nail on the head, so to speak. Is sustainability, does it equate to artistic value or monetary value?
Great question. So one of the things that seems really apparent to me is if you are fortunate enough to find an audience that comes back again and again, that you will oftentimes find trolls. So is everyone familiar with what a troll is? Can one of you describe what is a troll? The next question is for her, so I want one of you guys to describe a troll.
It's a large creature with no. A troll is just like, listen, the internet is the internet, and people, if you put anything up on the internet, people will tear it apart, no matter if it's the best thing the world has ever seen. And it's just a function of the internet. It's just what people do. It's the anonymity. It's just human nature to a certain degree of people of a certain age, I guess. I don't know. But trolls are anyone who just go to your favorite YouTube video and look at the comments. Just people who get a rise out of negativity. And yeah.
So Jenny, my next question is to you for I think we will believe is a fairly obvious reason. I think you just engaged this idea that there might be trolls out there head on and named your blog what?
Trolls don't find me. I've taken my blog off the internet. Are we talking my personal experience with trolls? For the last 3 or 4 years, I've written with a writers collective called Flip Collective, and it's predominantly men, and many of them were ex-pro basketball players. So they have a built-in audience of people with a penchant for trolling, and we would just get heckled, and it's one of those things where it's like you read through the content and you just disengage because it's such a no comment on the trolls, but they're there, especially in writing. But it's a sign that your work is getting out there, because if someone has the time to just waste going through all of your content and heckling, then you have one more person reading your work. So.
Well, I've been fortunate. I haven't been trolled or been subject to trolling, but I think negative as much as positive commentary, I think, is getting people to use their brain. I think they're thinking at least. Granted, a lot of the stuff that they put on that you hear and see is, you wonder about the mental acumen of these people, but at least they're thinking. So I think in that respect, it's a positive thing.
When we did a show called The Berg, which is about hipsters in Williamsburg. This was a while ago. But it was popular for the time that it was popular. But we got this comment, and had gotten used to bad comments. It was like 6 months in. We got this comment, and it was just the most hilariously offensive, vitriolic rant that I've ever seen. Terrible punctuation, and I was just like, this is amazing. And so my partner and I, at the time, we were like, okay, well, we have to do something with this. So what we did is we had our actors perform the comment as a dramatic monologue to camera. And it ended up being awesome because Gawker.com loves that kind of stuff, loves when you can be like a little snarky and kind of fight back. And then they posted on us, and then that sort of got the ball rolling again and got us a whole new round of press and everything. So if you can either ignore it, which is totally viable, and I usually do that, but if every once in a while if you use it too, it can help you.
Yeah, I think you either gotta, it's like school bully, right? You have to kind of own it, right? And just make it valuable to you in terms of feedback. Like I said earlier about your audience being your ad agency. The worst comment I ever got on one of my own YouTube video clips, I was smart enough to put the approve all comments thing because not enough people watch my clips, so it doesn't take me a lot of time to go through that. And it was nasty. It was terrible. It was mean. And it was, I don't get it, and kind of like, thick-headed. But the guy was thinking, and I saw it pop up and I read it and I just went into like white rage and I was like, I'm gonna get him. And then I waited like 2 days, and then I went and found him and I looked at his stuff and I looked at his comments and his trolls and then I stalked him on Facebook because this is what you do. I gently stalked him. And I wrote him a big, long thing back after I calmed down, and I was like, you know what, you're right. I did do this wrong, and I do need to think about this better, and I probably should do this thing that you suggested. And I just sort of took it in and owned it, and I was like, you're right. I'm not approving your nasty comment, but I learned a ton from what you said.
That was great. So it's a different kind of engagement. Yeah. Don't feed the troll. Right. So I'm going to ask them one more question, and then I'd love to invite you guys to ask some questions. So get thinking about what you'd like to ask these lovely people after I ask. Is there some kind of indie art that you haven't done yet that you'd like to do or try, or a different audience you'd like to engage?
Mine's really quick. Did anybody used to read Choose Your Own Adventure books when you were a kid? Okay, there's one YouTube channel that did a Choose Your Own Adventure series. Chad, Matt, and Roth, right? And they did a couple, and they were gorgeously done, and the acting was really good. And it was like, 5 minutes, and then there would be a big plot point, freeze frame, and you had to pick the next video to watch. And if you were picking the right ones, the story would continue. Pick the wrong ones, there was like some horrible death or ending or aliens or something. And I just think that's one of the ways in which this thing, because the internet's a big accordion, it can grow in all kinds of crazy ways. So that would be the one, I think. I'd love to do like a, audience picks the next stage of the story series. That'd be mine.
I'm interested in longer form content, I guess, on the web. I hate the word content, I'm not going to say that. I'm interested in longer shows on the web. I'm interested in seeing more independent shows that are half an hour long. And so I'm working on what I think is the first hour-long comedy online. It's called Life Ends at 30, and it's about, if girls is 20s and Louis is 40s, it's what's the between. So that's, my partners and I are working on that now, and hopefully we'll be out next year.
Actually, I had thought this through, but I think I'd love to see kids involved in creating stories. Maybe even getting into those show like, I think there's a kids show where they do the Master Chef. I think now there's little kids. It would be great to be able to give a kid, 4 or 5 kids, give them a storyline and have them go out and shoot, edit. And most of these kids, by the time they're 10 already, have a great idea on how to use the computer. They can do Final Cut Pro. It's amazing. I think I would do that.
And my goal is just to take my comedic essays in my book and turn it into film, which you guys are already doing, but a late bloomer.
So any directors talk to this one? So the way questions will work, because we're mic'd and we're live online, so holler out your question, I'll point to you and choose you, and then let me kind of parrot it back so the folks online can hear the question too, and then we'll have these guys answer it. So, questions, hands up.
Earlier in the show, you mentioned something about using the search capabilities of the internet to promote your work, and I'm actually very interested to know a little more exactly what that means. Do you come up with a marketing strategy, whether ads, run promotions, do social media strategies to promote what you're putting up there, or do you let other people do it? Do you need a budget? What about if you have no budget? So I know that's kind of a
So let me paraphrase the question. So the question is really around how do you promote your shows online? What kind of budget is needed? What do you do if you have no budget? Did I capture that?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'll try to start, and hopefully without insulting Tom's knowledge. And he promised to clean up whatever I get wrong. But you really asked two questions. You talk about. I'm so trolling you later. The first you talk about search, using search capabilities, right? And then you're talking about promotions. When you talk about search engine optimization, right? There's number one search engine in the world, Google, right? Number two search engine in the world, YouTube, which is why Google bought it. The number two search engine in the world. It's not Yahoo, it's not Bing. So you're talking about all those words, like the title of the piece that you post, okay? Any of the additional elements, what are those things you click on? Tags. The metadata that you include in not just your description that you write. This is my video about when I went to Vermont to the film festival, and and I went over here and it was in West Dover. All those words pop up in searches, right? Both the ones that you want your viewers to see and the ones that are tags, which are not necessarily the ones they see, but generate hits for you in searches, right? In terms of promotion, I would say the zero budget option is Twitter immediately, right? And be smart about your branding. Don't use like different, icons or avatars across platforms, right? Keep it consistent. And let your Twitter, which is insanely easy to build a following on, especially if you're snarky and obnoxious, feed that machine a little while before your release date of your next episode or your next music video or your next podcast or whatever it is you're promoting, right? So there are, to sort of give you a little more, there are companies that are social media marketing companies that will lay out all of those strategies for you at this point. So, clean me up, my man.
What was the exact question again? How do you promote? How do you...
It's a combination of utilizing search and promotion and with and without budget for your shows.
Okay. Well, with budget, what I do is if I use 25% of my budget goes to promotion whenever I do something, and usually what I use that on, because it's usually like if it's a smallish budget, then I will just put that into essentially Facebook, because what Facebook ads like to do is you can buy them for as little as you want, essentially. Like you can say, all right, I did a show about a Renaissance fair a couple of years ago, and so what I did is I just put made up a little ad unit. It takes like 5 minutes to make it, and you can spend $20 a day up to however many dollars a day you want, and say, I want to target, just people who like Renaissance fairs or are part of Renaissance fairs or who have friends who are Renaissance fairs. My show is called Life Ends at 30, so I'm going to target people who are 30 or turning 30, in urban centers. And you can decide like how big you want to go, but that, like in terms of percentage of click-through rate, that usually, if it's super targeted, that usually gets the most. I totally agree with Twitter. If you don't have any money, Twitter's a great place to start. It's just like this. It's the promotional question is just like there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm a firm believer in not doing a project by yourself, doing a project with a lot of partners, just to sort of increase your base of who you know and who you get to work with. We do a thing always when we just have like this tastemaker list, which is another word I hate, but like we put together a list when we start any project that's like, who are the 200 people that we know who are most inclined to like send this around or have the most friends. We just go through our friends and figure out who those people are and send them stuff ahead of time. I say like start planting the seeds and everything. Send them exclusive content and then try to get a little bit of a buzz before the launch. And the only other thing I'd say is that if you're launching something that is an arc, that if it has like 6 episodes or more. Kind of, I would say, when you launch, you want to have more than one thing for people to watch. Like the worst for me, and this is my personal preference, I don't know. The worst thing for me is like when I go to like my friend's web series, launching a web series, and he launches like a episode, and basically the next episode doesn't come out for months, And it's like, well, no. When I go to your channel, I want to get invested in it, so I want to subscribe and come back. So I want to see at least 3 pieces of video on there, So to start with like some stuff already already made and up on the channel, I think is a really good way to start.
Any other questions? Hands?
Yeah, could we get could each one of you look into the future and tell us in 10 years' time, and I apologize because I came a little bit late, but if you covered this already, where new media will be in 10 years?
So the question is to kind of look into the crystal ball 10 years in the future. Where's new media? Where's the industry 10 years from now?
10 years?
10 years is that's like 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think definitely the TV aspect, unfortunately, is dwindling as been evidenced by the amount of advertising dollars that are just going out the window. But content is always content. Whether you show it on a TV screen or you show it on a bathroom stall, you have to have the content. So that's never going to change. So I think the power is going to come from content providers.
I think broad agreement.
Yeah, well, professionally produced video or whatever is not going to go away, because I think people will still want it. I think like you'll see more and more, I guess non-professionally produced content as well. I think it's just going to get more and more and bigger. I think 10 years, God, I don't know.
So is all TV VOD by then?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think the only thing I can say for that I'm gonna place my money on is that like if you look at how computers have gone, like from laptops, debuted I guess like 20 years ago to phones now, that within 10 years we'll start to see more and more sort of non-device computers, and basically Google Glass is like the first step in that, but there'll be even more like little contact computers and wrist watch computers, and instead of typing on a keyboard you type on your arm. So it's just going to be like that idea of taking your computer anywhere without having to use a device is going to be like where it goes. So that opens up a ton more creative art and content directions that could go.
I think the other thing that you're going to see is super hyper-targeted marketing. So if you put a baseball game on now, you look behind home plate, they've got the 2 panels of green screen, right? So every third of an inning or every inning, right, you're flipping your sponsorship, right? So it goes True Value, and then 2 innings later it's Pirelli tires, and then it's Pepsi-Cola or whatever. But I think super soon you're going to start to see the technology and all that extra data start to reflect hyper-personalized stuff. So if you and I are watching the same ball game, I'm going to see a different ad behind home plate than you are. Because they're going to know that you don't ever go into a True Value, and they're going to know that I don't ever bring myself in proximity to Pepsi-Cola. Apologies to Pepsi, but I'm a Coke man. Coca-Cola. Wow. This is on the internet. So you're going to see, you're going to walk into, the local shopping center, and instead of, you're going to have a green screen panel, and your Google Glass is going to pop up, oh, this guy's he eats this salad dressing. You know what I mean? I'm going to see something different. And that terrifies me. But I think that's where it's going.
There's an emerging trend because of crowdfunding of integrating your audience prior to the completion of your project. Can you speak about any experience you've had with that, and also not just the financial or the marketing piece, but the potential, good and bad, for influencing content by identifying the audience prior to you actually making the content?
So these multi-part questions. So the question is, in this day of crowdfunding, we're seeing a trend of people moving toward getting the audience involved with the content before it's released to the public. Asking for some comment on that, and also how that influences the content. Did I get that right? And do you have any experience with that?
Earlier this year, I interviewed a director who was showing at the Tribeca Film Festival, and they had effectively crowdsourced the content. So they put together, it was basically this like quilt of writing that people submitted. And from the sound of it, that model wasn't very successful, and they were really kind of left with these really amateur writers that it sounded very strange. So I don't know how popular that strategy will be, but I don't know if it's that great to involve the audience or people kind of funding via Kickstarter. I think that they should just kind of respect what the vision is of the people putting it out there. It gets a bit sloppy.
Well, I don't think in like the Kickstarter world that the audience is just involved from a financial perspective. They're not really involved from a creative. In advertising, actually, they play a big role. The advertising agency comes out with an idea. They show it to peer groups, and sometimes one person out of 10 says, I don't like the red car, and they'll change the whole way the campaign goes. So, in the advertising perspective, it does play a major role.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Yeah. I mean, I guess what you're saying is like, does bringing the audience in at an earlier stage, like we're in film and TV, we're it's just one way, right? It's one way broadcasting. And just bring them in on the earlier stage, like somehow dilute the creative process or the product somehow. Actually,
I was thinking it offers opportunity.
Yeah, I think both probably. Like I think there are, if you fund or help fund a Kickstarter project, you'll see like a lot of them offer like you can be in it and stuff like that. I think it offers opportunities. Again, I think it depends what you're doing. Like, I think that there are stories that you can tell that would really benefit from having the audience be like a really interactive part of it, and then there's probably stories that you do want a singular artistic vision, kind of putting what they think forward. So it's good and it's bad. I mean, it's definitely a new way to work, and so if you're into it, go for it. I personally never actually used Kickstarter. I think I'm about to for the first time. I don't know, but I know a lot of people who have. So
yeah, I think again it depends on the circumstances. If you're feature film that's been your life's dream, since you first saw it as a vision, right, is within your grasp, the last thing in the world you want to do is give the optional endings over to the troll, the trolling audience hordes out there. But if my dream comes true and I get to do this weird, choose your own ending thing, then I'm going to embrace that. So it depends circumstantially. And, and also you look at beyond financial, right? If you're shooting a period film or a period web series and you need a 1953, car, I don't know that guy. And I don't want to have to drive around to all the, car shows. I'm just going to put it out there, right? And sort of let the universe conspire with me. Because that person hopefully is going to see, I get to be in a movie with my live stream, which is this car that I restored. And so there's ways that you can really make it work beyond the financial, I think, going back to this idea of art in this age. And then I think there's other times you have to step away from it. And you're like, just give me the money. I'll make the movie.
I don't know if you guys heard a lot what's happening now in the feature film world is they're showing movies to audiences before they do a final cut. And if an audience doesn't like something, they're going back and reshooting it. So it kind of lends to, is it an art form now, or is it just basically about money? You're gauging your art in the direction of what's going to be more profitable for you.
Way back in the back, and this will be the last question, and then we'll roll the credits.
I just stepped in on this, but you said that you would not rather have the crowd not give money. like a crowdfunding situation? Like
No.
So the question was, you'd
No.
rather not have the crowdfunding money?
No. Any money is great, but the question was, people are donating money, but also kind of the stipulation is that they are somehow involved in the creative process. I don't think that they should necessarily, from a writer's perspective, where it's very much so like that.
I think it's, we were talking about circumstances being, project specific. So she's not going to turn her dream novel that she finally gets to write over to the masses, or his masterpiece film or whatever. But in a transmedia sense, where we might be marketing something different, and it's tied into a film or a web series.
So what's the lesson of the two evils, the studio or
well,
because
this was kind of a fictitious.
The
what?
The reshooting only happened at the studio versus crowdfunding, whatever the final cut is.
You have to define involvement too, I think. Does involvement mean they get to pick casting decisions, or does that mean they get a T-shirt and an exclusive, DVD or piece of content about the making of, right? So you have to decide what involvement means.
Kickstarters don't allow crowd.
This was like a theoretical. You need to be here.
I was like, wow, I've never heard.
This is not anti-crowdsourcing.
Yes, the bar is open. But I think it's interesting. I mean, we've kind of gone from talking about sustainability to just being able to make your art to that blurry line between making art and making movies and trying to make money. And it seems like there's a continuum of answers, and I think we could go on for hours and hours talking about where indie art is in the 21st century, and you guys just knocked it out of the park. So thank you very much. Please come up and chat with them afterwards, and thank you for joining us.